Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench. Greetings and welcome to episode 14 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis from Summer Dental Laboratories in Zionsville, Indiana.
I'm Barbara Wojin from Knight Dental Group, Oldsmar, Florida. How's everybody doing?
We are doing good. How are you, Barb?
Yay! I'm fantastic.
Nice.
It's way too pretty in Florida right now. I've already had a glass of wine. I'm chilling with my family.
That's
hanging
hilarious.
out by the pool.
It's 9 a.m. in the morning, Barb. It's 9 a.m. What the hell?
It's 3:30.
Okay.
Just
well,
just so I'm clear.
We'll let it slide.
3:30.
It's 9 a.m. and it's Wednesday. What are you doing?
They don't know the difference. Don't lie. Come on.
Well, today we have an interesting, wonderful interview we had with Chris Bormes from PREAT.
Yay.
I'm sure everyone knows Chris. If you don't, then get outside more often. I was trying to think of the first time I met Chris, and I want to say it was probably Chicago Lab Day, 5-6 years ago. But I think before I even met him, we became friends on Facebook. You know how you become friends on Facebook with people you really don't know?
Yep.
Oh, sure. It's like
See everything.
If you look on my Facebook, I'm an extrovert and know everybody. But I used to do a thing when my wife and I first got married is when I'd go out into stores or antique places or something, they had letters. You know, you commonly see letters on mugs.
Oh, yeah.
Or famous around Christmas times, they do it on stockings. And I would always spell the word ass, take a picture of it, leave it, and send it to my wife. And I put it on Facebook, and Chris thought it was the funniest thing I ever did. And when I saw him in Visions, he mentioned it to me, and I think ever since then, he was instantly a good guy. That's my Chris story. So.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. You have the Barbara approval for your story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm stamping that.
You're welcome.
Chris and PREAT are one of those things you can always count on. If you get something in your lab, implant or attachment related, or you're just not sure what it is, or you just needed a second opinion, the people at PREAT are always available to help. And my favorite part is, even if they don't carry the product to sell you, they're still going to lead you in the direction you need to go. So they are just a vast collective of knowledge when it comes to implants and attachments. So major kudos to Chris and the whole team of PREAT.
Awesome.
All right, so let's get on with the interview. Chris Bormes from PREAT. Voices from the Bench. The interview. I'd like to thank Chris Bormes from PREAT joining us today. If nobody knows who this gentleman is, you're either living under a rock or you need to get to know him because he is everywhere. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Thank you, Elvis, and thank you, Barb.
I appreciate you being on. So like I mentioned, you're with the company PREAT. Tell me, when did that company start? What's the whole idea behind the company PREAT?
Sure. So the company was started by my father, Tom Bormes, back in 1980. And previous to that, he had got into the industry back in the 60s. His first job out of college was as a management trainee with Patterson Dental. And the first time he paid a visit to a laboratory, he fell in love with it. And he went to the laboratory owner and he said, "Hey, will you teach me dental technology?" And the guy kind of blew him off and said, yeah. And my dad offered to come and clean the plaster traps and sweep the floor and scrape wax. And the owner said, "Okay, sure, kid, come on in at nights and do that." And after a couple weeks of doing that, the owner said, "Okay, this kid's for real," and taught him dental technology. And soon after that, he got into attachments, started bringing in, the first precision attachments from Switzerland, from Belgium, from Europe. Started a company that was purchased by Sterngold. He ran Sterngold for a number of years. And in 1980, he decided he wanted to start a company where he could really focus on service, especially technical service. And the question gets asked a lot, what does the name PREAT mean? And it goes back to, the old days when you had the slide carousels and you travel with these huge, suitcases of slides, and you'd have a flip pad during your presentations and courses. And he got tired of writing out the term precision attachment, so he developed a shorthand PREAT for precision attachment, and that's how this weird, crazy name became the name of the company. And it was funny because when I joined him in 1997, somehow our UPS labels on all of our shipments, one of the employees there put, instead of from PREAT Corporation, said from Chris PREAT. And so for years, people thought my name was Chris PREAT. And I still have people come up today and call me that.
I love that story. That is so cool. I didn't know your dad was into dental technology. I didn't know you were second generation. I like you even more now. That's really, really cool. So thank you for that.
It was really fun because as a kid, I would ride my skateboard, down to the office, holidays, weekends, summers, and do filing, and I'd play with attachments and play with models and, later on implants. And, it was something that was so fun. Everything seemed like a Lego to me. And, it was something I tried to get out of. I really did not try and go into the industry. I got my first degree in accounting and worked downtown San Francisco for a couple of years as an accountant, wearing a shirt and tie, and I hated it, absolutely hated it. And he and I went through a series of talks for about 6 months to see if it was something that was worth doing. And, one of the conditions was I had to go to, a dental technology school. And so, I enrolled in the program at City College of San Francisco, run by Mr. Potter, which was a fantastic experience. And, there were certain things that I was fantastic at. There were certain things I was lousy at, but it was a great learning experience and really gave me a good foundation, as well as, what I've learned from my dad over the years. I mean, that can't be understated. So I love what I do. I think I have the best job in the world.
Yeah, that's kind of like I was when I was a kid, and I used to go in and make model patties and draw on the board, and I was always around it, but I never really knew that I wanted to do it until my dad gave me a nudge. So that's a really cool story. I love it.
So you actually went to a dental technology school. Did you ever work in a lab, or did you go directly to working with your dad at PREAT?
So I have never made my living at the bench, which I think is a good thing, because when I was at school, Mr. Potter called my dad up one day and he said, "Hey, Chris is a great kid. He's got the highest scores in the class. The rest of the students go to him to ask questions." And I can just imagine my dad having that pride going, "Yeah." And then comes the kicker. He says, "But he's got the worst hands I've ever seen." When he stacks porcelain, it looks like a marble. He's always asking for somebody to help him with the hands-on stuff. And it's true. I have terrible hands. I'm not artistic at all. And so it's one of the things I have so much admiration and appreciation, for technicians, because honestly, it's something I'm not good at, the artistic side. Yeah, so never made my living at the bench.
Wow.
So basically you can talk the game, but you can't play the game.
If I had to sit at the bench, I'm sure I could do it. One of my favorite parts, and I've done this a couple days this week, is when we do testing in our laboratory at PREAT, is I'll sit down and set attachments, work on implant stuff, teeth, and I spent probably about 3/4 of a day this week working in our lab, and I love it. It's fantastic. But then, of course, I don't have the pressure of getting it out the door, making sure everything's beautiful. My stuff can look lousy, but be functional.
Nice.
So your dad brought the first attachments over, or were there already attachments here? What were some of the first attachments that you guys started selling?
This is going to be kind of a tough one to answer. So if I was sitting in the office, I could pull out some of the material from the 60s and 70s. And, my dad retired about 2 months ago. And so before he retired, I had tons of literature and manuals going back to the 60s and 70s. And now I have even more. Some of the early stuff I remember was the dowel bows.
Yeah. Are there a lot of attachments that you guys sold when the company started that are still around now?
Absolutely. We still service a lot of cases that have been in the mouth for, 40 years, whether it be dowel bows, Rothermans, which, as Elvis knows, you can't find anymore.
Oh, they're harder and harder.
Yes.
Harder and harder, yeah.
We still see a lot of bar cases, whether it be hater bars, round bars. When you get into the 80s and implants, we're still seeing a lot of the smooth staples and stuff like that. Of course, Sika's back in the 80s, Shiner magnets. In the 90s, you had the ERA take over. of course, locator in the 2000s. So it's we see basically 4 to 5 generations of attachments.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
So how many of the attachments do you guys make, and how many of them do you resell?
Yeah, so we have a wonderful relationship with our friends at Zest, and that goes back to the mid-'70s when Max Zest, who founded Zest Anchors.
I had no idea there was a guy named Zest.
Yeah, Zest, Max Zest. He and Jim Shiner were partners in one of the biggest laboratories in Southern California at the time. Max Zest was a mad scientist kind of guy. Jim Shiner was absolute gentleman, businessman. They decided to kind of go their separate ways. Max opened up Zest Anchors. Jim Shiner worked with us and developed the Shiner magnet. And my dad and Max worked together on manufacturing and marketing the first Zest Anchor attachment, which, again, we still service nowadays, 45 years later.
Very popular still.
Yeah. So, we have a really nice relationship with the folks at Zest. When Paul introduced the locator, with help on that, it was a wonderful system. And so outside of working with Zest, and we distribute their full line of products and work hand in hand with them, I'm going to say 95% of the other attachments we sell, we manufacture.
Really?
Yeah, we make those here in the United States.
That's interesting.
And how many employees do you have at this time?
I'll answer that a different way. How's that?
Sure.
So when we moved into our facility in Grover Beach in December 2014, I thought we had a ton of space and we'd be there for 10 years. We're already pushing at the seams, and I have a 12 to 18 month window to find a bigger facility. So we're doubling every 3 years on average, and it's a lot of fun because we have a great team. It really is fun to go to work when you have a team of committed professionals and everybody's working towards the same goal. We joke around about making our customers look good, but it is like that old Vidal Sassoon commercial. If Elvis and Summer Dental Laboratories don't look good, we don't look good.
Yeah.
It really is a lot of fun. And I truly enjoy the people that I have the opportunity to work with.
And on that note, I would love to give props to Ruben, who has been a great resource for implant identification for me and Summer.
So Ruben Arevalo is a fantastic guy. Even if we didn't work together, I would still call him a great friend. I have a ton of admiration for him. He's a great family man. He's a great dental technician. He runs the whole show. He runs the day-to-day, all the operations, and he's gotten so good at implant identification. My implant ID muscles have kind of atrophied. He was out yesterday and, we probably got a dozen in and I could handle most of them, but there was one or two. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this one anymore. And I was embarrassed to admit it, but he really does a fantastic job. He's an absolute asset to the industry.
How many implant x-rays do you guys get in a day to identify?
It could range anywhere on a slow day to a dozen, up to 2 dozen on a heavy day.
Wow.
We get a ton of attachment identification. That's kind of where, I have a little bit of expertise there. And so I handle a lot of those. Ruben handles the majority of the implant IDs, and it really works out well that way.
And I also want to give props to the group that handles the online chat. I love chatting with them. They're a lot of fun. They are able to provide great customer service without ever having to talk to anybody. And sometimes I need that in my day, and I think it's great.
You know what? That's really been fun because there's a feature not a lot of people know about, and you don't see this on the back end. And I call it the Big Brother feature, where if I'm in the office and not on the road, I can watch every chat. And if I see someone going the wrong direction or not asking the correct question, I can whisper to them real quick via the chat. And as the user, you don't see this, but on our end, I can whisper or I can give an answer. And it's not so much me looking over everybody or micromanaging, but, we have courses for our customer service staff, and we base a lot of these courses off the chats. Hey, what was the customer really asking? How can we handle this better? And it's been a great training tool for us. And the staff we have is fantastic. When I say they're committed, they really take it to heart when I say that phone's got to be answered by the second ring. You've got to answer that chat within a minute. It's important. Your time is money. Our dentist time is money. It's important to us.
I love it.
I think that's pretty obvious in the amount of growth that you've seen. And I see you everywhere. I see you lecturing. I see you at all the meetings. I see you involved in NADL and Supplier of the Year. What are you hearing out there when you go and you visit those trade shows and you talk to, people in the lab industry? Is there fear? Are they growing? What are you sensing? What are you hearing?
It's interesting. Just going backwards for a second here. When I was growing up, my dad was on the road all the time. And I said, hey, I'm never going to travel all the time. I'm going to be home for my kids all the time. And as I started traveling, years ago and getting to know more people in the industry, I tell people this that come into our company, you're never going to meet a better group of people than dental technicians. And I'm not just blowing smoke on that. It's some of my best friends in the world are dental technicians. It's the best people. And when I'm out on the road, I look forward to it. Hey, I'm going to see Elvis at the show, or I'm going to see Barb here. And it's a lot of fun. And, one of the things I love to do is just ask a couple questions and shut up and listen. You get to hear a lot. What are people's, like you said, what are their problems? What are their concerns? And I think a few years back, a lot of folks were concerned about, of course, exporting work overseas, about chairside mills, things like that for the fixed. From what I've heard, there's been a lot of transitions and a lot of strategic movements on the fixed side. And, you go back to 2008 and look at what happened then. There was such a downward push on the dentist side to lower prices. And, you saw the price of alloy going up, and then as businessmen, laboratories said, hey, we're going to get into CAD/CAM and zirconia. And I just tip my cap to the intelligence of the folks running the business side of things. That was brilliant, being able to grow during those tough times. And nowadays we are seeing and hearing a lot of growth on the fixed side. It's from the laboratories that have made that strategic movement to provide service, to provide that technical support, to provide training. And if somebody's out there just marketing themselves as the $69 crown, as the $99 crown, I don't think that's a viable long-term business solution. We have a group of dentists coming out of school who, with the pace of technology going on right now, they're not up to speed, and they're looking for that laboratory partner. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and I'm focusing on the fixed side right now to partner up and really work with your young dentist. And I'm hearing a ton of optimism on the fixed side. And again, I think the laboratories that are selling the service aspect are growing faster. I think it's been at least a decade now where the removable side has been, constant growth. When I talk to denturists, when I talk to removable laboratories, when I talk to prosthodontists, the general consensus I hear is I have more work than I know what to do with, or, we're bursting at the seams with work, which, that trend's not going to stop. You look at the supply, you look at the demand of the baby boomer 65 and older, 1 in 3 are missing teeth. There's 40 million people right now that are edentulous. Only 6% have an implant supported or retained prosthesis. There's a huge demand for the products and services right now, and removable remains really exciting. And one of the things I'm keeping an eye on is digital dentures. It's been fun to watch the growth there. I know when CAD/CAM came into fixed, people were concerned it was going to take jobs.
Yeah.
My 2 cents on removable for what it's worth, and I could be wrong. You still need the knowledgeable technician to sit at that computer screen and design a case. The curve of speed, curve of Wilson, things like that. A computer doesn't know that. So I think we might be able to utilize digital as a tool to increase production to make up for that lack in supply we're going to have very soon with the number of technicians retiring.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to put technicians out of business. I absolutely don't think so.
Yeah, I was on a message board yesterday, and a good friend of mine, Leon, was looking for a dental technician, and we were all talking back and forth on how, here we go, lack of technicians, lack of expertise. Well, I definitely agree that it's a tool, completely agree that we need both your brain and your hands and the technology all put together. And, my concern also is that people are retiring and we have to replace them with somebody. So, and also digital dentures is exciting. I saw Lee Cope talk about that. And he's like, I can't, I can understand how to put it together and I don't have to know how to do like a physical denture, but I can do it on the screen and I can put it together digitally. And I was like,
Sure.
damn, I bet I could do that, Maybe I could do that.
It was great. I think it was 2 episodes ago. You had a fantastic 2-part interview with Judy from LMT, who's one of the most wonderful people of the industry. And there was a report she and her team put out in 2015. And when I talk to dentists, I tell them the 2 things that scare me the most in our entire profession right now. And this goes back to Judy's report with LMT, is that by 2020, they estimate 1 in 3 technicians are going to retire.
Wow.
And all of a sudden you're looking at that and you're saying, wow, who's going to provide the parts and services? Yeah, that scares the heck out of me. And, when I talk to dentists, I'll tell them, especially the ones right out of school, I'll say, don't listen to the practice management consultants. Your lab fee should not be X. If you really want to worry about that, give the patient 2 invoices, 1 for the lab bill, 1 for your services. But I tell the dentist, and I might not be popular for saying this, but I say, find the best laboratory you can work with, the best technician you can find, and treat them like a king or queen. I mean, they are going to bail you out of more problems and more cases than you can ever imagine. Don't worry about paying an extra $20 a crown or $40 a denture. Find the best laboratory you can to work with and partner with, and that's the smartest thing you can do. That's been another trend that's been fantastic to see, is the respect that has changed over the years towards the removable or the fixed technician. Mm-hmm. It's awesome to see that, because when we're talking about these big full arch, implant supported and retained cases, you have the oral surgeon, you have the restorative dentist, and you have your restorative technician. And a lot of the times the technician has more knowledge and they're the ones leading, the team there. And it's fantastic to see the respect that is given to the laboratory community. Long overdue.
Thank you so much. There's going to be 250, 300 listeners just right now doing backflips for that statement. So thank you.
It's true. It really is.
Yep. We've worked really hard for that too, to attain that respect level. I've been in many, many conversations in my years as a dental laboratory technician to get that equal respect level. And to hear you say that you hear it and preach it, I think that's awesome. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I see a lot of the times we used to be, as a technician, saving the day at the end. But I think they've started to finally realize if they bring us in from the beginning of a treatment plan, everything goes a lot smoother when we're there from the beginning.
Yeah,
absolutely. You think about the stereotypical, well, I shouldn't say stereotypical. If you think of the GP down the street, he might see, 1 or 2 implant cases a month. I mean, Elvis, at your laboratory and Barb at yours, you're probably seeing 1 or 2 an hour, if not a lot more than that. I mean, you have the expertise on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I know that you guys at PREAT are a huge supporter of our industry, giving regularly to the foundation, of course. Talk to me a little bit about, I know you did the race last year, you did the triathlon. What is your opinion on giving back and supporting the industry? How do you feel? I know why you do it because you're passionate about it, but tell me a little more. How'd you get involved?
We've always been supporters of the NADL and the foundation.
Great interview.
Oh, it was great. I appreciate Chris Bormes. Thank you for joining us. Everybody, join us next week for part 2 of Chris's interview, where he gets into a lot of great stuff. So come back and join us next week. The last thing we want on Voices from the Bench is content that is just big advertisements. I don't want some schmuck on here trying to sell a product, but we're not against having vendors or companies on talking about their products as long as they are also educating and entertaining us and the listeners. So if anyone knows a vendor, a rep, or a company that is outstanding in their customer service and can educate our industry, please feel free to reach out to us at info@voicesfromthebench.com.
Well done. That was good.
I'd also like to thank the support from JDT Magazine, Journal of Dental Technology. Their latest issue, the June-July issue, and if you haven't got it yet, I know you will soon, they have a great article in it called The War on Talent. It's all about finding and hiring people for a dental laboratory. The magazine in the corner put a really nice check it out that references episode 3 and 4 of this podcast, where we have a roundtable talking about the same topic.
Cool.
Thanks again to the staff of JDT.
Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons why podcasts are so great. At any time, all the episodes, current and past, are available to listen to whenever you want. So if you just now are finding out about Voices from the Bench, please go back and listen to all the past episodes. Just be kind. Barb and I had no idea what we were doing back then. Well, actually, we still don't know what we're doing, but we are getting better.
Yes. God, I hope we're getting better. I'm assuming we're getting better.
I think we are.
I think we are. I hope we are. I think you're beeping me out more. So as long as we're doing that, I guess we're good.
So Barb and I were recently interviewed for a podcast that is basically the podcast that influenced me to start Voices from the Bench. It's a podcast called The Dental Hacks. Two dentists got together to start a podcast many years ago, and I started listening to it.
I just want the record to state that the one that interviewed us was quite handsome.
I'm sure Alan would appreciate that. It's always interesting to hear a clinical perspective of our industry. I feel like it helped me communicate better with dentists after I listened to the Dental Hacks podcast. So I recommend everyone, after you listen to ours, to check out theirs. Go onto their website. There'll be a link on this episode's website. It's called the Dental Hacks Daily, episode 18. Barb and I are on there talking about Voices from the Bench and things dentists can do to make our lives easier.
Which is in a positive state and not a negative state, because we talked about the things that dentists do to make our lives a little crazy.
Yes.
We decided that we'd put a good spin on it. So it's the things that they can do to help us be better technicians, which is pretty cool.
So definitely go check it out. Episode 18 of the Dental Hacks Daily. Remember, everyone, go to our Facebook page, hit like, hit share, tell your friends. Go where you listen to your podcast and give us a review. We always appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Hasta la vista, baby. Bye. I always say I'm Wojin, rhymes with Trojan.